We have Lewis and Sara Judy with us tonight as the presenters. Lewis and Sara run a wood sourcing operation down in Jefferson, Oregon, about an hour south of Portland, just a few miles off I-5. That, in my experience, is one of the few sources of really fine wood for woodworkers. And they've been at this for, I think, 35 years or longer. And Lewis has a background as a woodworker himself, going back even further than that. I'm really excited to have them here to talk with us tonight about what they do and how they do their work, preparing the wood for sale, and also talking with us about various questions we have about wood. They indicated that they would have an interest in spending most of this evening's discussion addressing questions that we have. So to kick that off, I sent them a set of 15 or 17 questions that I'd gathered up from a few of our members, just so that they could have those in hand as kind of a starter set of questions. And I'm sure there will be a number of questions that come up as we go along that will keep us busy right up till the end. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sara and Lewis.
Well, we started this business probably about 30 years ago as wood sales, and it was mixed in with our furniture business to start with. And it's kind of evolved as we went. And I guess it's hard to kick it off in just a few words. But
well, we take the shop tour that I made you guys a video.
Yeah, let Sara show you the video of the shop first, and I'll kind of talk as it's going. But
so I want to share a screen.
I'll start off by telling you about a guy that was here just yesterday, and he asked me. He's a woodworker that's local from Corvallis, but he wanted to know why our wood looked different. He said our wood looks different, and he wanted to know why, and he especially was wondering about the walnut. And I told him that it's because of the milling. And milling, all the processes that we go through is different. And I don't do everything myself for a reason, because I they're all specialized processes, and you can't do everything yourself, as you know, from being, if you guys have done woodworking yourself, and you probably don't do everything from start to finish yourself. You probably subcontract out something. You know, I don't know too many woodworkers that do every single thing themselves, from the designing and the procurement of the wood and everything themselves. Some people do, but I doubt it. If they tell you they do everything themselves, they're probably lying. But anyhow, I won't get into that. But anyhow, I've never milled lumber, for one thing. I'm not a sawyer. So we do sub that out to other people that are experts at it. And there's artists and craftsmen in every field. And I like to think that we try to pick the best people to do the work that we do. And every chance I get, I try to pick the best people to do the work that we do, because the end product reflects big time in the whoever does the sawing or whatever happens to the material, it reflects in the finished product. So I don't care if it comes from a big mill or a small mill or wherever, it reflects in the product. So that's why our material looks different. And when we get it in, we also do upgrading. We plane it, straight line it, and take any defects out of it that's in it, and chop it into shorter lengths, and do different things to it, and book match it, and pay attention to problems that might arise, or any wane or any cupping or bowing, we flat joint it and straighten anything out that's wrong with the lumber before it goes on our store. So that's why the material looks different. And so I just wanted to start with that. And it's hard to explain that to people that when they walk in and look at it and they just think that all lumber looks that way. And why don't other places lumber look that way? It's because they don't do that. You know, it just doesn't happen. Anyhow, so it's hard to tell the differences between that stuff and tell you guys what it is, because we don't know. That's a clarinette. And if you pick it up off the ground next to the tree and you know that it fell off that tree and it's round like a quarter, about the size of a quarter, and it's round, you know it's a claro walnut. But if it isn't found like that next to the tree that it fell off of, you don't know much about it. And if it's an oblong nut and it's about the shape of a football, then you know it's an American black walnut, and it's an Eastern walnut. And it can be growing out here in the West and be an American black walnut, because they brought a lot of them out here when they came out with the settlers. And then there's a lot of cross-pollinated trees that are cross-pollinated with Claro and Bastogne and English and whatnot. And they're just cross-pollinated trees that are half of this and half of that.
The reason why the wood is good and colorful is mostly because of the fact that it's a large tree to begin with, and then we're only doing the butt cut, and then can you hear me? And then
Yes.
there's a air drying process that's a season, a summer through summer per inch before we do the dehumidifying. So all of that probably adds to the color, as well as just being in the Pacific Northwest, everything grows really well here.
One of the reasons walnut looks good, if you get it out of a large tree, I don't care if it grows in Pennsylvania or Oregon, if it's a big tree over 4 foot in diameter or 5 foot in diameter, it's going to be good looking wood. I don't care where it grows. So that size of tree matters, because it's going to have good color, good. It just matters on the butt cut. And then the drying process matters too, just like Sarah just said. If you air dry it for a long period of time, a year per inch, it's gonna hold the color. If they steam kiln dry it on like they do on the stuff you get out of the East now, it's gonna take the color out of it. You can take a guess, you know, but you're not going to be 100% accurate. You know, you can definitely tell the difference between black walnut and English, you know, but you're not going to know the difference 100% between Claro and black walnut or Eastern black for sure. Now, Claro has some distinct color differences in the reds and the marbling. Even if you don't have the nut sample, you know, I've seen enough of this stuff that you can look at it and take a pretty good guess on whether or not it's Claro or not, just by looking at the color. But I couldn't tell you I'm 100% accurate.
Okay.
And I've looked at a lot of wood, but you know, I'm not going to stake my life on it. When we dry it, we sticker it on 12-inch centers, and we start right out at the end of the lumber, because when you stick the lumber right out at the end of the board, can you see that in the?
Talking about though, get the stickers all the way out to the ends of, it's like an old timer trick.
Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You stick her out towards the end of the board, and then we stick her on 12-inch centers.
And they're lined up on top of each other. So it's the movements.
That way you don't have, and you stick her flat. So your boards are flat when they're green, and they stay flat all through the drying process. And you don't have any problem with them moving.
Do you not use a kiln dry, or is it all air dry?
After they're air dried for a year per inch, we stick them in the kiln and finish them off. You know, they get down to about 12%, and then we take them down to 7.5 in the kiln.
The
Okay.
kiln is basically like a container-sized insulated box with a dehumidifier in it.
It's a EBAC kiln.
Oh,
Okay,
Takes it down to 7.5%. And that's just finishing it off, you know, because Mother Nature does the best job of drying than any kiln will do. And we just have all the time in the world. So we're not production, you know, we're not in this for production. We only do about 15 to 20,000 board feet of walnut a year, you know, so it's not like we're a warehouser. We buy the logs.
In walnut,
We buy the logs standing. We buy the trees standing and then take them down and take them to the mill. And walnut's the only thing we do that in. And we buy myrtle wood and burl from a guy in Coquille that does the milling himself. And we buy cherry from the East Coast, curly cherry. And we buy all of our quilted maple and curly maple lumber from Weyerhaeuser. Well, they used to be Weyerhaeuser. It's been bought out since then. But the lumber, we don't do any maple lumber because of staining. So, but
so the slabs in the picture that's up right now, is that walnut?
that picture, that's all walnut, Claro. Well,
Okay,
The
I think
slabs
it's
in the
Carol.
background.
in the
oh,
background?
that's cherry back in the background. That's cherry.
Oh, okay, against the wall.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
Pennsylvania cherry.
that's pretty.
We've got a lot of cherry right now. That's all walnut right there.
but this is crucial to getting nice lumber to work up, is to get your stickers lined up.
If you sticker properly like that, you can run it through the planer after it's dry and clean it up with 2 passes, you know, and no problem. On wide boards with a Martin planer, you can clean it up with 2 passes and it don't, they're flat, you know, so you don't waste much wood. So anyhow,
Okay. Well, I can, let me see.
so that's really
I
the
noticed,
color retention is drying it slow.
pardon me, I noticed in the stack everything was stacked. There were like 3 groups of logs there, or planks. And in between there were 4x4s instead of just regular stickers.
Those are
They weren't
balusters.
quite centered. Does that cause problems?
What? No, the balusters?
Yeah, because they're not quite centered, so they're not right over the stickers.
Well, they don't have to be, because the stickers, they have to be close.
Okay.
They're just balusters, just
We're popular.
well, I don't sit over here at night very often. I didn't know we got so many calls. I
He
mean,
wants you to go on a cruise.
I'm sitting in front of the fireplace right now most of the time.
Why don't you talk about the videos?
Oh, the
I-
video?
We
Okay,
didn't
go
see
ahead,
it
run
last
the
time,
video.
and then you can kind of explain. This is our main shop, and we have 4 other buildings that are just wood, but this is our main.
The main shop don't have much wood in it. It's just where we work up our wood. It's got the main machine room in it, where we have our planer and our joiner. That's Hector down there. Where he gets pictures. Hector's our main employee, other than Sarah. Anyhow, that's going into the main building where we have
myrtle wood and musical maple, and we do all of our mailing packaging because we're
Our office is back there. That's where we're at right now.
95% mail order at this point.
That's where we do our shipping, and that's where we have a bunch of billets and junk. With their planer.
So Lewis, do you work with maple at all?
For what? I sell maple.
Okay, you do
Well, I
sell
haven't
maple.
built anything. You mean building?
Well, Dan
Really,
asked the
Bernie?
question. Dan,
You were saying that when you're talking about stickering up wood, you said you didn't do maple.
Oh, we don't mill maple. And the reason for that is because maple is a white wood and it really stains quick. If you don't mill it and get it into the kiln within 3 days, it'll stain.
Oh,
So if you don't have a big kiln like the big mills do, like Weyerhaeuser, they have the
Yeah.
big kilns that they can fire up a 300,000 board foot kiln charge and get it through real quick and get it dried real quick, it'll stain.
oh,
It stains gray,
And that's the only
so
reason
it's ugly.
I buy wood from those big mills is because they don't stain their wood. And you can't sell stained wood, you know. You buy wood from any of these little mills and it's gonna be stained. It's
oh.
disappointing. And I've tried to mill it myself and it's losing battle.
But you do carry big leaf maple, right?
Oh, a lot of it. It's our biggest seller.
Ah,
Got
okay.
thousands of feet of it. Quilted and curly and burl. Our burl isn't a problem. We buy and billets. We don't worry about billets and burl. Burl dries fast. It's not like lumber. It dries fast and we don't have any problem with staining on it. But lumber is different. It'll mold overnight.
oh,
It will make you cry.
I'm sure it would.
It will. You get a musical grade log that you pay a lot of money for and lose it, and it just is horrible.
Some questions about crotch and moisture retention and whether or not burl was end grain, which it's not. It's
Yeah. Well,
So-
burl is not really grain at all. It really hasn't got any grain structure to it. It's kind of like a wart or a cancer. It's an anomaly on a tree that gets on a tree because
oh,
it always happens on a tree that's growing close to a creek or a river or a water source that or an over fertilized area that that's where the maple burls happen. And
I don't know why this isn't working for me.
so they're a growth like a wart on a person
Hmm.
or a cancer. And so they really don't have grain structure to them. And I think that's why they dry easy. When you cut them up and dry them, yeah, they dry fast. I don't know if you guys have ever messed with burl, but it dries fast. Now crotch is a different thing. It's compression wood, and it does have grain, but it dries different than straight grain lumber. That's why we cut it off of the lumber and dry it different, because it is compression wood and it's harder and it won't dry. If you leave it on the straight grain part of the lumber, it'll dry at a different rate, and you really can't use it with the lumber, or it will act different in your project. But it works great as accent wood and for panels or with crest rails or arms on a rocking chair or accent wood, you know, or jewelry box lids or stuff like that.
And then talk about end grain, because this burl is a particular kind of grain, but it's not end grain like quilt.
I didn't grain. I just told them that.
Okay.
Anyhow. you guys were asking about knives in the planer for planing, and I think one of you were down here. Was it Jerry?
Yes.
And you were talking about high-speed steel. I was using high-speed steel at the time, and that's back before I was getting a bunch of lumber. Lumber is different now, and all the lumber that you get now is either been run through an abrasive sander, or it's been sitting around and got a lot of dirt on it from air drying. And so there's a bunch of crap on the lumber now that really is a problem for high-speed steel, and it really dulls the knives quick. When you abrasive plane stuff with a sandpaper, the grit actually sticks in the wood, and that's granite or garnet or the grit from the paper, and it just really will knock the knives off in a hurry, because that's the actual grit or the little rocks or whatever it is in the sandpaper that's in the wood, and it just kills your knives in a hurry. It first pass will kill them. So we switched to carbide for that reason. And burl is worse. We've been doing a lot of burl, and it's got all kinds of crap in it, you know. And so it's got all kinds of stuff in it that got dirt and all kinds of stuff that just knocks the knives to death. So the burl lasts, the carbide lasts longer on all of it, and so we get longer life that way. And we've also done that on the bandsaw. We've got a Northfield bandsaw that's only about 2 years old, and we've been using a carbide band on that, and it works really good for resawing micro lumber and guitar sets and stuff like that.
Lewis, when you refer to carbide cutters on your planer, are you referring to the small helical carbide cutter
no.
heads that have, no?
I wouldn't use a helical head. You couldn't pay me to use one of those things. I mean, I think they're good, but they just take too long to change the knives. You know, they're like a machine cutting head. Every one of those things are a machine cutting tool, and you have to go through and change all those knives. And if you get a little piece of dust underneath one of them, they're not right. I use a tersa head, and it's a slide-in knife that slides in. They're made in Switzerland, and they're 10 times better than anything I've ever seen. And they only need 2 knives. They're a 4-head knife, but you can put 2 dummy knives in it that just go along for the ride. And you just put 2 knives in it, and they just work slicker than snot. Yeah. I've planed thousands of board feet with a tersa head, and I wouldn't. I'd stack them up against anything. For a small shop, I don't know about big shops. You know, I don't know what they do, but I know it takes. Anybody I've talked to that's had a helical head spends 45 minutes changing those knives on a 24-inch planer.
So, while we're talking about differences between wood, differences between types of cedar.
Okay.
I don't know how many varieties of cedar you handle, but in particular, Port Orford cedar versus Alaskan yellow cedar. Do you have experience with those 2 types of cedar, and what are your thoughts about those?
Yeah, we carry a Port Orford cedar, and it's and I have handled Alaska yellow, and Alaska yellow cedar is more for carving, and I don't know that I've ever heard of anybody using it for guitar tops. It's real soft, and it's got a nice odor to it, but I don't know. I know Eden Saw up in Port Townsend carries it, but I'm not sure. I've never carried it much. I've had it in here, but it's been 15 years since I've had it in here.
Okay.
And Port Orford's used a lot for guitar tops and carved tops, like arch tops and stuff. So I do carry it all the time, and I think it's a superior for acoustic tops and arch tops and stuff like that. And it's harder and has a lot better properties in a lot of different ways.
Thank you.
And it has a really good smell.
Yeah.
I think yellow cedar has a good odor too. If you like.
You could go over the grading, because how it's specific to us. I'll do this one. One of the questions was regarding, I'm gonna take my mask off. Was regarding the grading process, and like we made it up ourselves because there are no industry like national standards for figured hardwoods. So we had to kind of come up with some guidelines, and so we have 3 grades that are specific to us and how we grade. So if you go to another company that sells figured hardwood, then their musical grade may have different standards, or their 5A may be their top grade, and where it's our middle grade. You know, so it just is specific to us. Is what, you know. So you have to learn each store's specific grading system before you buy, or else you won't know what you're getting necessarily.
What's the basis for the grading?
Musical instruments.
Pardon me?
Musical instruments set the grade. They're the objective is to get the perfect, clear figure, deep, without any burl or bird peck or cracks in it. And you want to be able to resaw it so you can get thin resawing all the way through, and have it be consistent and even. And that would be musical grade. And then, so that sets the standard. And then from there, then we have another group of 5A is what we call it. And it's just a real intense figure, but it's more of a furniture grade because there will be areas where it changes, and there may be some bird peck and burl cluster in it. And then 4A is figured wood. It's just not, doesn't quite make the grade.
Yeah, 4A would have maybe a side on it, a back side on it that's a little light in figure. But it's still good stuff. A lot of people think the 4A grade is better than anything they've ever seen. So, on what you've seen,
Do you ever run into chestnut or locust? Do you deal with either of those?
I don't try to bring in new species because we've tried that with madrone, and it's all a matter of being able to repeat it. And if you can't get it in again and again, there's no sense in carrying it, because it takes a lot of effort to put a species on your price list and get it on the site and get it. And if you can't repeat it, there's no sense in carrying it.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I've
There's the
noticed
money
is,
in it,
speaking of madrone, I think I've noticed I get their weekly email, which I would encourage all of you to do. That each week I get several examples of gorgeous lumber. But I noticed on the madrone you seem to have quite a bit of it, but my impression is that all of it or most of it is what you call micro lumber.
Right, that's all we have.
That's all you have. Is that just because of a supplier issue, or?
Well, we only carried madrone burl, and that's all they had was small guitar sets in guitar sets, and we resawed it into micro lumber so it could be book matched for drop tops on electric guitars, and that's all we have. And we're selling it out, and when it's gone, we're not going to replace it.
I got it.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting about madrone is that to dry it, it has to be pressure cooked.
It has to be boiled.
Really?
It has so much water in it. When it dries, it just collapses. It doesn't break down. It just collapses and gets thinner. You can have 6-cord lumber that's 1.5 inches thick, and when you dry that lumber, it'll end up being 3/4 thick. It's just crazy. It's so full of water. It's heavy. So it's a pain in the neck.
You carry myrtle too?
A lot of myrtle. We got a lot of myrtle.
Oh, I can show 'em
Really
pictures.
good myrtle. Bring up some myrtle, Sarah.
Yeah.
Show 'em some myrtle. Yeah, we got some good myrtle. I tell you, we've been getting some good myrtlewood burl, myrtlewood lumber,
Uh-huh.
big sets. Yeah. Yeah, we've been working some up just recently. It's just really, really nice stuff. And myrtlewood's one of those woods like koa that it can be uglier than heck or prettier than anything you've ever seen. It's just one or the other.
Mhm.
One of our members had given me a question that I sent you about myrtlewood, and his observation was there seems to be less and less of it being displayed in shops along the Oregon coast. Is the supply of myrtlewood going down?
I don't know.
Lately?
I don't keep track of that. I think the guy I get my myrtlewood from gets it from shipyards, where they chip hardwood into pulp. Most of that hardwood gets chipped into pulp. Do you have any lumber pictures?
Yeah, I got lumber pictures, but I got burl. This is burl myrtlewood. Myrtlewood. You see it?
I don't.
Oh, they might not be able to see it.
Are you guys seeing that?
No, because I didn't.
Nope, seeing you. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
That's
Yeah,
some
that's
burl
good.
pieces. So I don't know. I think there's still just as much myrtlewood. It's just probably not being produced into lumber.
See, this is kind of neat because you can see how the burl is I don't know. See how it's formed? You have the rays, and at the end of each ray is an eye.
Sure.
So you can see. So if you were to slice this off, it would just be like burl eyes all over. And that's why it's not there. So,
Hey, Sarah,
yeah.
this is an aside. Some of us are of a certain age where Burl Ives is a well-known old folk singer.
Burl eyes.
It's a candidate for one of your puns on one of your weekly.
I'm gonna write that one down, actually.
She'll use that on the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I have some pictures of myrtlewood.
That's really pretty wood.
Always throws it over here.
Can you
It's
see
just-
that?
I
Yes.
just select them all before it'll play it.
Now this myrtlewood makes really good guitars. I don't know. Can you see those
Oh,
pictures?
that's not myrtlewood, that's maple.
Oh, that's maple.
Yes, we can see the pictures you're showing.
Okay.
Does myrtlewood tend to have a sort of a greenish, grayish?
Greenish,
tone?
yeah, greenish, brownish, golden, green. It's got some good colors in it. It has a big range of colors.
I had a yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Does anybody have any more questions?
this is a question that's kind of shifting gears a bit. Some of the material you advertise its dimensions in inches,
Oh,
like inches thick. Some material is described as in like 4/4, 5/4.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
well, 4/4 is just a regular lumber measurement in quarters. That's a hardwood measurement that's measured in 1/4 inches. 4/4 is 1 inch, 4/4. 8/4 is 8/4 is 2 inch, 8/4.
Right.
And we measure all of our lumber that way. 6/4 is 1.5 inches. And when we get to measuring our micro lumber or our billets, we measure it in actual thickness because we want people to know the actual thickness. We measure it as full 3/8 inch or full 1/2 inch or full 1 inch or full 2.5 inch blocks or full 2 inch. So they know, when they buy that billet or that block, they know the full thickness of it and they know how many slices of veneer they can get out of it, or the actual thickness that panel is going to be when they make their little panel for the doors or whatever. So any of the thin stock, we make sure that they can know the thickness out of it. The lumber we do in quarters, like regular hardwood. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so.
I got another movie. This is myrtle wood, and it kind of shows how it has.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
We don't need to listen to it, but see how it gets dark and it changes like a rock.
It has that chantoyance to it.
And this is an extreme example, but all of it really does this. It has a kind of a iridescence.
Once you get a finish on myrtle wood, it'll look like that. It has that deep chantoyance depth to it.
All of your music wood is only air dried?
Pardon me?
Do you don't kiln dry the music wood?
Yeah, we do.
You do?
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, have you looked into vacuum kilns?
No, we do it in a DH kiln, dehumidifying kiln. But all we do is pull the last 6% out of it. It's down to 12%, and we drop it down to 7%. So we air dry it to 12, and then we drop it down to 7.5 in a DH kiln. So it's not radical drying. It's just dropping the last 2 percentage points out of it with a DH kiln.
The vacuum kilns, from what I understand, are good for really uniformed units. So if you have the same size blocks over and over again, you can fill it up with the same size stuff. And where our units are real varying, and they're never uniformed like that.
How big is your DH kiln? How many board feet can you get in?
22 feet long and 12 feet deep, 8 feet tall.
What EBAC do you have?
EBAC
EBAC 3000 or?
3000.
Another question is about big leaf maple. In your experience, maybe your experience more as a woodworker than a wood seller, is big leaf maple generally hard enough for tabletops or surfaces that would get a lot of use?
Well, big leaf maple's hard enough.
Like desktops.
Yeah.
I actually have countertops in my house. He has floors in his house.
It's good wood. Yeah, I would say it is. It has really more to do with the finish than it does wood.
Oh, and my stair treads. My stair treads are maple.
Yeah.
We believe in it.
Well, they used to make floors out of pine and fir. in
Yeah,
the-
but that gets harder at good time.
Nah.
Yeah.
So did you use 5A or 6A maple on your stair treads?
Three.
Musical grade.
You can strum her stair treads.
Yeah, right.
So if you're using big leaf maple for furniture, do you need to get it made and finished pretty quickly to prevent that discoloration?
It don't discolor as much as cherry.
Oh, no, no, no. Once it's dry, you're
Oh,
good. Yeah, once it's dry,
Okay.
you're good. And it doesn't have any patina to it, like cherry and walnut. It kind of stays the same.
Yeah, it's more of an honest color than any wood we've worked with. I don't, it doesn't change on you as much as walnut. Walnut will lighten up. If you put a tablecloth on walnut and it doesn't cover the whole table, it'll leave a spot on it. Maple is good.
And same with myrtle and cherry would all show UV reaction.
Do you harvest cherry in the Pacific Northwest, or do you import it from
No.
the East Coast?
There's no cherry in the Pacific Northwest.
All
The
right.
the Bing cherries are the ones you eat.
Yeah,
They're fruit trees. The hardwood trees that we get cherry wood off of back in Pennsylvania are
mhm.
hardwood trees.
I think that it's called black cherry, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they're different. They're different
Yeah.
than a fruit tree.
So do you import the logs, or do you have
No.
a
No, we buy lumber. We import select lumber. We really are fussy about it. I'm not gonna pay freight on crap to get out here.
yeah?
Yeah,
Do you buy just the highly figured cherry, or do you
Yeah,
just carry
yeah.
cherry that would be common?
yeah, just highly figured stuff.
We're too small. We don't have
Yeah.
enough room.
We gotta be really selective about what we bring out here from back there.
Transportation's costly.
It is. You're not kidding. It's gone up a lot. Everything has.
so do you have a buyer back east or
No, I
with
just
the photographs or you
just
travel
have-
a lot?
I just have a mill that I can trust. Have a relationship.
Mhm.
You know, that's what you need to do in business. And you have to trust your relationships with people. You know, that's how you survive. Is you have good relationships with people and treat people right, and things will go right. They don't go sideways then. So,
Do you do any custom work?
no.
No?
We do.
Oh, what?
Well, we do custom re-sign.
Oh, yeah, we do that. What are you referring to? I shouldn't have been so quick on that.
And there has been occasions where we've glued up.
Yeah, well, forget it, Sarah.
No,
Stop.
but we do re-sign our own wood.
Yeah,
Well, what I was just following up on Dan's comment about cherry and what type of cherry you get. If you had a customer who came to you and said that he was interested in some black cherry that's, vertical grain or as close as you can get to vertical grain, would you source that for them?
We have it.
You have it, all right.
We have it. We have 4, 5, 6 boards out there that are probably, 12 inches wide? That are
Yeah,
BG, straight up and down BG,
yeah, they're really
10
nice.
feet
That
long.
was in that picture.
Yeah.
That was in
Huh?
that first picture. They were beautiful boards.
I know, we
In
have
that
nice
very
BG.
first picture.
Yeah, they're hard to come by because they have to be cut right out of the rock, right out of the heart of the tree. But they do exist.
Mm, mm.
Now, BG maples are a little harder to come by.
Yes.
We have that too.
We have it too, though, some of
We
it.
sorted it out.
Carry Oregon white oak?
No, we
Why not?
don't. It's just too much of a commodity wood, and it's really, really prone to bugs. I mean, we have enough bug problem with myrtle, and Oregon white oak is not valuable enough for us to bring in and carry and have to treat it for bugs.
But there is a company that has, that's in the Pacific Northwest that does carry a graded product for commodities, and that's Hardwood Industries. And they're out of Tualatin and Seattle and I think Bend.
I don't know if they carry Oregon white oak though, but they have white oak from Eastern white oak.
And they have graded process so that you can get specific what you want.
I don't know of any place you can get Oregon white oak, to be honest with you. There used to be a little mill up in Santiam Canyon. What's the name
Hardwood
of it?
components.
Hardwood Components that had it, but I don't know if they have it anymore.
I don't know if they survived the
Yeah,
fire.
they did. I stopped by there not too long ago. They survived the fire, but they didn't
There's a
have.
guy in Albany. There's a guy in Albany that's got a private, I don't remember his name right now, but he's got a fairly good mom and pop operation that's got Oregon white oak. He specializes in it.
Okay.
It's really the bugs. They just fly towards it. You know, the powder post beetles.
Yeah.
I had some here once, and man, I got riddled the first year. They just love it. It's got lots of starch and sugar in it.
So if I understood correctly, you said at one point that maple, you want to get into the kiln as quickly as possible to avoid staining.
Yes.
But you also said that you like to take your time with a lot of species,
Oh,
maple
yeah.
accepted. So maple's the only one that you're concerned about getting in quickly. The rest you let air dry an inch per ear.
Oh, the rest have enough tannins in them that they won't stain. Walnut, you can't hurt it. You can leave it sit for 5 years, 6 years, and it won't hurt it.
Well, we do have a guideline. We do have a guideline of not buying any maple cut after April and before October. And that's because the heat will cause the staining. So if it's milled in the winter and then they get it down to us and we get it stickered and sprayed and everything, then it's fine. As long as it's cold,
For billets. Yeah,
for billets and stuff. But you can't do any of that. A lot of people want to go out into the forest and cut blocks in the summertime, and it'll ruin them.
About a year ago, we had a presenter. He's a fellow up here in the Olympia area. He does art, woodworking, vases, wall hangings, that sort of thing. And to deal with the tannins, in most of his work, he applies I'll say a light coat of a certain bleach that's been cut. And his experience is that inhibits the staining that comes from tannins eventually.
We used to use that, and we don't find that to be true. Remember that bleachy stuff we used to put on it, and can't remember the name of it. It's been years, but it stained still. You know, it's still stained. Maybe it's the quantity we're doing. You know, I don't know.
Stay bright.
Stay bright. That's what it was. If that's the same product, it didn't
No,
work.
his product was dailies,
Oh,
and he would cut that with denatured alcohol, as I recall.
But once you get the maple dried and milled out, it's stable enough that it doesn't stain, right?
no, the blocks don't. I mean, we dry them in our big room. We have a big room that we have a dehumidifier in, and I put a fan on them, and we dry them in there for like 3 weeks to get the surface dry. And they're chainsaw milled. They're chainsaw cut, so they have a rough surface, and that's rough enough to wick moisture out.
Oh.
If they were sawmilled, it wouldn't work.
Really?
But with this chainsaw milling, it's a rough surface and it acts as a wick, and we can sticker them, and they're uneven enough, believe it or not, because they're uneven enough that when we sticker them, they don't sit level, and the stickers don't stain them because they're uneven, and they don't warp because they're thick. They're like 2-3 inches thick, And the wicking wicks the moisture out quicker. It sounds silly, but it works. And if they were sawmilled, they'd be smooth and it would seal the moisture in.
Well, even so, even if it is sawmilled, it still does have enough roughness to wick out moisture, because in walnut, they're sawmilled and they need to be rough. They need to be kept rough until they're dry, because if you try to stick them in the planer before they're all the way dry, you will trap the moisture and get green streaks through your lumber, and it'll be trapped in there, and then it'll interfere with your finishes and stuff.
Is that a fact?
You can case harden lumber real easy by doing the wrong thing to it. You can case harden it by stickering it in the wind on a hot day. It'll seal the outside of the lumber. It'll case harden it with the wind and the heat, and it'll seal the moisture inside of it. A walnut will do it especially on thicker stock, like 6 1/8 And when it'll look dry when you'll think it's air dried, and then you cut it open and it's dead green in the middle, and it's hard. It's trapped moisture in there.
And that's the main reason why we don't do a lot of walnut over 2 inches thick, because it's so difficult to dry it all the way through.
If I ever cut any 3 or 4 inch walnut, it's out of a dead log, it's standing dead, which I get once in a while because they're around because of the bug kill. But you don't want to do it out of a fresh log, or you'll get trapped moisture in it.
But you say planing will do that too.
It can. Planing will trap moisture.
If you plane too soon.
If you plane green lumber, it'll seal the moisture right in it.
Yeah, because that rough surface just helps it with the drying.
It might have something to do with the problem with the moisture in that Kwanzaa cherry.
Dan, I'm tallying up all the mistakes I made.
A lot of people plane lumber too fast, and it just can cause all kinds of problems. That's why milling and drying lumber is a skill in itself that a lot of people don't realize how much there is to it until they try it. You know, it's not easy. I mean, there's people that get doctorates in drying lumber, you know, that run kilns at Weyerhaeuser.
Yeah,
there's a lot to it. It's called wood technology. You can go to Oregon State and get a doctorate in it. It's, and I'm not saying I have one. I've learned it the hard way by running a lot of wood.
What kind of mills do you have?
I don't have a mill. I'm not that smart. I don't know. I don't know how to mill lumber. I told you at the very first of this presentation that I don't know how to saw lumber. I don't pretend.
Who does your milling?
Oh, Bob Schechter at Pine Creek Lumber over in Eastern Oregon. Yeah, he's been doing it for about 40 years. And he's an expert sawmiller. Sawyer. He's an old man like me and you. You don't have no hair.
He sells a lot of musical grade material. I've visited him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's in the middle of nowhere.
Nah, he's in Friend, Oregon. That's not nowhere.
It's right next to Duper.
Yeah, they have a schoolhouse there.
It's got to be somewhere then.
Not even used anymore. It looks like a background in your picture.
Yeah, there's Bob's house.
Where's that background in your picture? That looks like Bob's place.
It's Kamiak Butte in Eastern Washington.
See, that looks like Bob Schechter's place. Only Mount Hood would be in the background. I'm not
like
kidding.
I said, the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. Yeah. But that guy knows a lot about milling, and I've learned a lot from him about milling and sawing logs that I would never know if I hadn't met him. And thank God I didn't have to learn it myself. I wouldn't be alive today. I'd be dead.
So do you glue up panels for people?
I try not to. No, that's a service that we can't offer because I don't have any clamps. I was smart enough to sell all those clamps when I got cut out of the furniture business. You know, there's a lot of things that you just shouldn't do. You shouldn't do everything. There's some things you shouldn't do.
Tell it to Amazon.
You shouldn't do sheetrock and roofing and clamping up boards. Let's see what else? Cement.
Electrical.
I agree on that one.
You know, if people can't get their own damn clamps, then I'm not going to sell them lumber. I have glued up boards for people though. I had some old lady buy some boards from me in New York, and she lived in some apartment up, and she wanted me to glue these boards up for her for a coffee table, and she's going to make it herself. And so I did it, shipped them to her. You know, I have done it, but I'm not saying I do it. That answer your question?
Yeah, that answers it. So
Again,
how far south of Newburgh, Oregon are you?
Newburgh? About
Yeah.
40 minutes.
40 minutes?
Yeah. We're just off I-5 about 2 miles. So
Okay.
we're not far from you guys. We're 99 miles south of the border, south of Washington border. Yeah, we're
Well, I got a brother that lives in Newburgh, and I
yeah.
go down and visit occasionally. And I got a project, 3 projects to do that I wanted to do in Maple. So I'll
Yeah.
have to come down and see what you got.
Well, we have exactly what you need.
Except one of those projects was a tabletop that I was thinking about getting glued up.
Yeah, I'll bet. Bring your clamps. I got some glue. I bet between the two of us, we can get it done.
Probably.
Well, you guys got any more questions?
Hearing
I think we're
none.
good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This has really been informative, and
I'd love to have you guys down sometime if you want to come down. You know, after COVID's over and everybody gets vaccinated, we could set
yeah,
up and
I
celebrate.
would love to do that.
Yeah.
I got one last question though.
Okay,
Are you open for retail now?
we are. Bring one of these and you can come.
All right.
Yeah, we get
Okay.
people in every day almost.
All right.
Well, you also need to bring your wallet. Yeah.
But
Probably.
It's actually, if you do come here, it's best if you spend some time on our website, because so much of it is smaller and on shelves. So it's difficult to see unless you're looking for a big tabletop, you know, that's standing up. A lot of the small stuff is on shelves and hard to see in.
the trouble is, whenever anybody gets here and they have already picked something out, they never buy what they picked out. They always end up getting something else because there's so much to look at.
But if I was coming down looking for about 60 board feet of maple in 6 1/8
Oh yeah, you find it.
I could find it.
It's just standing up. Yeah, it's all standing up.
Stand up and warping, right?
Yeah.
No, they're in heated and dehumidified rooms. We keep
Okay.
all of our rooms at the least amount like a barn as we can.
Well, we keep them dehumidified and insulated so they don't get moisture because we're shipping stuff all over the country.
Yeah.
I hate getting wood back.
Well, thank
You guys
you
have-
so much. It's really been an enjoyable evening, and I wish I knew about you when my daughter was going to Linfield College. I would have been over there about every other month.
Nice.
Well, send your granddaughter to Linfield.
Almost there, yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, and appreciate your time, and gosh, it was just a wonderful way to spend an evening. So thank you. Thanks, everybody. Jerry, do you have any closing words?
No, just thank you very much. The website, by the way, is nwtimber.com.
Well, we're in the process of putting a new store platform together. So in about 2 or 3 months, it'll be done. It's a lot of work, so it's going to take a while.
We always have to keep up with security so that we don't have a vulnerable site. So that,
Right. Right.
It's a lesson for all of us.
yeah.
All right.
Well, take care, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.